All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. And thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to everyone that is both joining us here as an expert and a panelist, and all of you here that are tuning in right now on just such a critical issue for our community, our city, our state, and really the entire country. Tonight, if just so you all know that you're in the right place, we are having an eviction defense workshop right now. That is what is starting tonight. And really the spirit of this whole evening is to just acknowledge the inherent wrongness of kicking people out to the curb in the middle of a global pandemic, that it is just morally wrong. And where we see things that are morally wrong, I believe we have an obligation to make sure that we resist, and we have an obligation to make sure that we protect each other from injustice. So I am incredibly excited that we have our future Congressman, Jamaal Bowman, here joining us this evening. And we're going to kick this evening off together. Jamaal, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Of course. How are you doing? How are things doing out there in your neck of the woods in these last few weeks?
You know, I feel very blessed and very fortunate to be in this position at this moment with so much going on in our district, in our city, in our state, in our country. It's really an honor to be here and a privilege, and I'm excited to support this movement and the movement overall. So no real time to celebrate. Recent victory is really time to get right to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much again, Jamaal, for joining us, and for everyone tuning in here at home and folks tuning in on Facebook. If you don't know who Jamaal Bowman is, I will tell you. Jamaal Bowman just unseated a 30-year incumbent. He was outgunned financially. He was outgunned in terms of establishment power. But as we know, none of that is, or rather all of that pales in comparison to the power of the people. And so on June 23rd, it was, I'm mixing up my election.
Yes, you had our primary too. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So on June 23rd, we had a real sea change here in the state of New York. Jamaal has won his seat in a primary heading to very strong chances in November, we'll say that. We also have Mondaire Jones upstate also making history. We have progressive champions all in the state level, the federal level. And so we are in a real moment of change. And that is thanks to all of our organizers that we will be hearing from on this call. It's also thanks to people like you who are tuning in and deciding to say, you know what? Not just deciding, but also realizing how much power each and every one of you has. So, let's talk about housing, because we are in, I think, a housing crisis that is both so enormous and also so quiet at the same time. We aren't hearing enough about it, but the fact of the matter is 1 out of every 4 renters in New York City has not been able to pay rent since about March or April. And what we're seeing right now is on the state level, the governor has said some things like the eviction, there is a moratorium on evictions. We're going to get into that because that's not really the case in terms of the status of things right now. There was kind of a universal eviction ban, or rather moratorium, that was in place. And now we're kind of in this fine print area. And so I don't want people to get it twisted at home. There are going to be folks that are in danger of losing their homes and getting evicted. And we are here tonight to show you how to defend yourself from eviction. And even on top of that, in any sort of moment of desperation, we are also seeing that some of these really big landlords, we're not even talking about the mom and pops, we're not even talking about working families that have like an apartment somewhere that they rent to another family. We're not talking about folks like that. We're talking about landlords that have 50, 60, 100 and more units that are starting to exploit and intimidate families. And in a moment of such intense vulnerability, you know, we have seen in the city and across the country that unfortunately, there are a lot of corrupt landlords that exploit any vulnerability that a family may have, whether you're behind, whether you miss one rent payment, whether you're undocumented, whether you have an income stream that, you know, may be under the books. Any sort of vulnerability has always been used to exploit tenants historically. And right now, in the middle of a pandemic, when we have millions of people that are unemployed, that vulnerability has exploded. And so, Jamaal, you know, I don't know if there's anything you want to speak to on this about, you know, your experiences or your take on the issue, but please go ahead.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, housing insecurity was a big deal prior to the pandemic, and the pandemic has just made it worse. I mean, when you look in this district, we needed 70,000 affordable homes prior to the pandemic. We had 40,000 residents dealing with severe housing insecurity, meaning they were paying more than 50% of their salary toward their rent. So it was a crisis prior to the pandemic that we're living in. And I just think back, I always think back to my students, and I think back to my time as a middle school principal and the many meetings I've had in my office with parents who had lost their home for whatever reason. They lost a job, didn't have the income, maybe there was some mental health concerns, and they lost their home. They were kicked out of their homes. And there was no safety net right here in our district, in the borough of the Bronx, to really catch them. So I had parents in the Bronx lose their home and then be shipped out to Queens to live in a shelter that was rodent infested, that was neglected. And because they had such a strong connection to the school, they would still do whatever they had to travel to the school every day from Queens just to get the education, any nurturing environment that they and their children deserved. And that's the thing about this moment. We're dealing with intersectional crises and a collective trauma that our families and our kids have to deal with. Not just the loss of a job, not just the loss of income and food insecurity, but the potential loss of their homes. And if they have children, we're still trying to figure out how we're going to open back up our schools. Mm-hmm. So this is the compounded trauma that our most vulnerable families are dealing with. And this is the opportunity for our elected officials to step in, step up, and be leaders in this moment. Mm-hmm. And the best they can do is put a moratorium on rent. Well, now I have tens of thousands of dollars on the back end that I still can't afford because I don't know where my income is coming from. The best we can do is kick the can down the road on evictions, right? So what's going to happen in August, on August 4th, when the governor lists the eviction ban? Now we're going to have 50,000 people in housing court. And at the same time, our elected officials continue to, especially at the federal level, you know this, Alex, we could write a $1.5 trillion check for Wall Street like that at the drop of a bucket. It's so easy for us to do. And we still hesitate to tax the wealthy, make sure they pay their fair share so that we can invest in housing. And when we talk about defunding the police, it's not about police losing their jobs. It's about investing in public health in a very real way so that we need less police in the first place. Because guess what? If people have secure and dignified housing and healthcare and jobs and education, we won't need, which we don't need anyway, as many police as we think we do. So these are intersectional issues. This is a collective trauma. I live in Yonkers, and Yonkers holds 50% of the homeless population of the entire county of Westchester. Mm-hmm. And when we're dealing with, as we've dealt with this pandemic, the people who live in these shelters weren't even tested and cared for throughout the last several months. So as we always talk about it, and our values remain rooted in care, well-being, public health, and fighting for those who have been most disenfranchised. So I just wanted to share that, and it's a pleasure to be here. And if rent strikes is what we have to do, that's what we have to do, because enough is enough. We got to push back on this system.
No, that's exactly right. And the thing that you spoke to so powerfully is the intersectionality of this issue. Everywhere from race to healthcare to to education depends on housing. Our nurses right here in the Bronx has an enormous amount of hospitals, health workers, home health aides, and more. And one of the things that our nurses always remind us is that one of the top indicators of health is your housing status. And if we are willing to, if our society is willing to callously just allow people to their own devices, which is the same thing as just kicking people out to the street, then what we are essentially creating is another public health pandemic on top of the public health pandemic of COVID-19. It precipitates and creates this self-fulfilling vicious cycle that we have the opportunity to stop, that we have the moral obligation to stop, that we already have the money to stop. That's the thing that's so important. We talk about how 500 billion was given to Wall Street and corporations. That's only the first layer of the story, because the way that Congress gave that money to these corporations was to the Fed, was in a way that was almost like a down payment on a loan. So they turned that $500 billion into $4 trillion. $4 trillion. And the people that try to defend this, they say, listen, it was a loan, it was zero capital, it'll come back. Well, what if we use that same instrument to suspend all mortgage payments in the United States? And then, so your landlord doesn't have to make a mortgage payment if that's the issue. By the way, this also applies to people who are homeowners as well, where you can get a break on your mortgage payment. You don't have to pay it the same way that we are suspending student loan payments. And that way you can pay that. They tack it to the very end of your loan cycle. So if you have a 10-year mortgage, you just add it to 10-year and 3 months, 10-year, whatever the amount of time you want to make that window to be. And then you can actually cancel rent for tenants during that time, because you're either going to sell your property and get that capital back from the bank, or you're going to be renting out to another tenant in that time. And so we have the plan. That's just one way to skin this cat.
That's right.
And the fact when people say that we can't, and that it's too much and this is unrealistic, why is it that not just our public health officials, but rather why is it that our elected officials are more comfortable with tens of thousands of people dying and going homeless than they are with actually trying to cancel rent for thousands of people? And I mean, the request is to just try. That's really what the request is. We're just asking our colleagues to try, to not even dismiss this idea out of hand, but to actually make an effort for tenant relief for everyone in the country. And so, with that,
I just want to say, we were elected to solve problems, not to allow people to die. Mm-hmm. And you throw a number out there like $4 trillion. Like, we're still fighting for a federal minimum wage of $15 an hour. Exactly. And when you talk about working class people, they hear numbers like $4 trillion. That might as well be another planet for them. Like, what? Mm-hmm. $4 trillion. And this is the stat that gets me more than anything. Our billionaire class has grown while over 130,000 people have died. If that doesn't show how rotten and corrupt and morally empty and shallow our system has become, I don't know what does. And again, our job, the people have elected us to represent them and to fight for what they need. And we collectively are failing to do so. And that's why I'm excited and blessed and fortunate to be here with you, because we got to get to work, not just us, because we are driven by the people and we are driven by the grassroots organizations that supported us and that we work with on a day-to-day basis. So it's a real pleasure.
Yeah, no, of course. So let's just get to it. You know, like we said tonight, this is going to be a workshop. We have brought wonderful activists that we'll be introducing shortly to really walk us through how we organize to defend ourselves from eviction. And I'm hoping that everyone that's at home is paying close attention, because if you may not need the skill for yourself, your friend may need it, a loved one may need it, a neighbor may need it, and really what all of the, you know, one of the best forms of defense is solidarity with each other and looking out for each other. So let's get to it. Let's talk about eviction defense. Evictions at their core are about power, and it's about how people use certain degrees of power over you and the vulnerable and the working class. And so to fight that power, to fight the power of money, we need people power. We need to organize the individuals, neighbors, and friends around us. And that's what is bringing us tonight. So let's kick it off. I want to introduce you all to Sia Weaver. Sia is the campaign coordinator of the Housing Justice for All, or rather of Housing Justice for All, and she has strategized and organized New York to last year's historic tenant protections and the wins that we got in Albany. I don't know if you guys remember, but we had enormous wins on the state level, from, you know, the amount of money that a broker's allowed to ask you for, that whole last month's security deposit, firstborn child, like it was unreal what people needed to do to get a new apartment. And Sia was right at the front lines organizing people to really bring that down and put hard caps, in addition to so many other reforms that passed last year. So she's going to teach us how to organize eviction defense, along with some tenant leaders and organizers that we have with us tonight, Winsome Pendergrass and Juan Nunez.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that I'm really blessed to be here. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And thank you so much, Jamaal. I'm so excited about who we're going to have fighting for us in Washington. And the conversation that y'all just had is just so refreshing to actually hear from elected officials, because most elected officials are not like that. And are not willing to like tell the truth and to speak truth to power, and to say that actually tenants' rights and human rights are more important than property rights. And so it's really amazing to hear y'all speak. So congratulations. I'm just so excited and we're all blessed to be here. So I'm going to pass it over to Juan, who's going to talk a little bit about the status of the current eviction moratorium. Juan has been organizing tenants in New York City for his entire life. He grew up in Washington Heights, organizing with his mom in their building, and now he lives in the Bronx and they're organizing their building there. He is currently organizing a rent strike with the 2770, 2780 Cambridge Terrace Tenants Association. Juan is fighting to cancel rent and for a real eviction moratorium as a tenant leader with Housing Justice for All. And he knows more about fighting evictions in New York than pretty much anyone. So I'm really proud to know him. I've learned a lot from him, and I'm going to pass it over to you now, Juan.
Thank you, Sia. Thank you, everybody, for having me tonight. Just to add to that, me and my mother didn't choose to leave Washington Heights. We were forced out because after my mother organized her neighbors on a rent strike back in 2000, all the landlords in the area blacklisted her when she got her Section 8 voucher. So we were forced to move to White Plains Road. So now we took what we learned from Manhattan, from Inwood, from Wash Heights, and we're applying it here. So just wanted to add that to that housing and how relentless landlords could be, and how displacement could affect anybody. So anyway, let's get to these to the new the moratorium. So as we stated earlier, Governor Cuomo has lifted New York State's executive order closing evictions. However, The chief judge has said housing courts will remain closed, pausing evictions from moving forward until at least August 6th. So nobody in the state of New York can be evicted until at least August 6th. The state legislature passed the Tenant Safe Harbor Act, which provides a defense in court, but it is not an eviction moratorium. Let's make that perfectly clear. It's not an eviction moratorium, the Tenant Safe Harbor Act. Under CARES, which is part of the stimulus package that passed earlier in the spring, federally subsidized buildings are subject to an eviction moratorium until August 30th. So let's talk about let's talk about when the court date will be and when the eviction proceedings will begin. So the first court date cannot happen before August 6th. So you cannot be taken to court before August 6th. When this happens, this court date will be virtual by phone or by Skype. And usually the first court date is only for the tenant to be screened so they can be matched with an attorney. So in New York City, thanks to right to counsel, you have a right to an attorney, but that's only in New York City. So that's what the first court date is for. The second court date, which is the adjournment before the second court date, will be long. So it's going to take a while before the second court date, and it could have a virtual hearing. Also, in-person court dates, there are no in-person court dates for now, and we're not sure when they'll start again. And I want everybody to note that due to the Federal CARES Act, if a landlord receives federal funding or if his mortgage received help from Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, then they can't serve rent demands, sue, or evict before August 25th. This moratorium is broader than many people know, so please look up your building. To find out if your building is covered, go to nlihc.org/federal-moratoriums. Again, if you want to find out if your building is covered, go to nlihc.org/federal-moratoriums. Okay. So what is the impact of the tenants? I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So what is the impact of the Tenant Debt Collection Act, aka the Safe Harbor Act? This act will only impact tenants after the courts start moving eviction cases forward at the earliest on August 6th. When that happens, tenants who are sued for rent owed between March 7th until we enter stage 4 of the reopening, which will vary county by county, and some counties are already in stage 4, they can raise COVID-19 financial hardship as a defense. If the court decides the tenant proved their financial hardship, the landlord would not be able to evict, but can win a money judgment. Marshals and sheriffs will still be able to evict tenants in holdover cases and in non-payment cases. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. And last but not least, tenants who had eviction warrants pre-COVID will not be protected from eviction by this law. That means if you were struggling before COVID, they don't care. You're not going to be protected by this eviction law. So tenants who owe rent from before March 7th or after phase 4 begins will not be protected from eviction by this law. So that leaves at least half of my building will not be protected from this eviction law. Just want to point that out. Okay. So who's going to be covered? Let's talk about that. People who can prove they lost income because of COVID-19 are covered. And who's not covered? People who can't prove it. So if you're undocumented or work in the gig or cash economy or otherwise you're not able to prove income loss is related to the pandemic. And as I stated before, people who were already behind on rent pre-COVID are not covered, which is a lot of my neighbors, of my friends, of most of the people, a lot of the people in my community. Also, Cuomo is claiming that rent strikers are not covered, but this is unenforceable and unrealistic. So you're not going to scare my building, Governor Cuomo. We're still going forward with the rent strike. So now I want everybody to please pledge, take the pledge to organize an eviction defense. All right, so place your hand over your chest and please go to bit.ly/eviction defense. Again, I'm going to do it one more time. To pledge to organize an eviction defense, go to bit.ly/eviction bit.ly/eviction defense. We're going to stay in touch and figure out ways to support you. And this is how we can get in contact with you. So please fill this out. See you.
All right. Thank you so much, Juan. Thank you so much for all that information. And then I just want to name that we went through this information very quickly, and I want to name that it is confusing, and it's a little bit like intentionally confusing, right? So Cuomo's telling us one thing, the chief judge is telling us another, and the federal government is telling us a third. And so if you are confused about what's going on with the eviction moratorium, that's not your fault. You're not alone. And so the number one important thing to do if you're behind on rent is to not leave your home. Maybe someone is going to bully you into trying to leave. Maybe that's your landlord. Maybe that's like you're getting some advice from someone that you know who's saying, oh, your landlord's going to evict you. It's very important to know in this moment that things are sort of intentionally confusing from Governor Cuomo and from the federal government and from the chief judge. And if you're confused, you're not alone. That's not your fault, and you should not leave your apartment. It's really important to, one, take the pledge to get organized and to fight your eviction, to stay in your home because you have rights. So again, I just want to plug this eviction defense pledge. And the reason why I want to plug it is that's how we're going to get in touch with you. And that's how you're going to know how to get in touch with us. So if you do end up facing an eviction, or if you are behind on rent, you can contact us using this form. And that's how you're going to find out where you can get help paying that back rent, get help learning about what your legal rights are in more detail. So that's bit.ly eviction defense. You can click that, you can sign up there, and we'll be in touch with you. And then you can reach out to us, right? And find out what to do if you're behind on rent and your landlord is telling you have to leave. But you have rights. You can organize to protect them. You can organize to strengthen them. So without further ado, I want to introduce Winsome Pendergrass, who's going to talk a little bit about how we do organize as tenants to protect our rights when we're facing eviction. So Winsome is really a leader who doesn't need any introduction. She's a member of New York Communities for Change, Housing Justice for All, and probably the number one cheerleader for tenants in New York State. I have learned a lot from Winsome. I'm inspired by her. I'm proud to know her. And she's going to talk to us about organizing your building, how you can talk to your neighbors and your community about tenants' rights. And that's something, Winsome has done. Winsome has fought her own eviction and fought her neighbor's eviction. She's shown up at Housing Court for herself and for others. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about why it's so important to organize to protect against eviction. So I will pass it to you, Winsome.
Hey, thank you, Sia. Can everyone hear me? Good. Wonderful, good evening to each and every one. I see we have a good amount of tenants participating. First, let me say it is such an honor to have my face on the same screen with AOC. Oh my God, it is so wonderful to be in the same group with her. And I am so proud of you and the work that you're doing, Congresswoman. And to Mr. Jamaal Bowman, all I got to say to you, go get him, Tiger. You got that in the bag. All right. So The state of New York was placed on lockdown by Governor Cuomo. But long before COVID-19 was long before COVID-19 was a thing or a pandemic, Housing Justice for All had a lot of other housing and a lot of other housing advocates. You know, we've been beating the road. We saw what was happening. We saw the faces of the homeless, humans on the street corners, on the trains, under the bridges, hallways, and everywhere. We sounded the alarm, and Governor Cuomo and a few others in Albany behaved as if we were stupid. We didn't know what we were talking about. So at that time, there was 92,000 homeless people on the streets of New York. And we sound the alarm. And we told him there was something that he could have done. Simply tax the rich and house the poor. But he seemed not to care about that. And here it is. The chickens have come home to roost. So in real estate, they say location, location, location. So as tenants, we say organize, organize, organize. We have to get organized. We have to get the courage. Some of us are timid. Some of us are being paralyzed by fear. Some of us have been a little selfish, a little shy. And we say, oh, I don't want anybody to say I'm meddling in their business. So sometimes we don't talk to our neighbors. We pass each other. We don't say good morning. But I'm here to tell you that we got to start all over to get into the nitty gritty and the niceness of saying, hi, how do you do? You're looking tired. Do you want me to help you carry that bag up the stairs? We got to get to know our neighbors, because what's happening to me might be happening to you also. And because of fear, you don't know who to go to, who to ask. So we have to talk to our neighbors. And we have to make sure that we are each other's keeper. That is how they will pick us apart when we stand alone. They will just come and start throwing your stuff down, breaking up your bed set, throwing everything down. I am a loudmouth, so if I see them throw somebody's chair downstairs, I'm going to say, wait a minute, why did that chair come downstairs? Whose chair is that? You live in this building. What are you doing in here? You know, but I know not everybody is as rambunctious as I am, but we got to look out for each other. So many children are being affected because they have to live in shelters. Don't think you don't have help. There is help. You got to reach out. So you got to check out, who can I turn to? Who can I talk to? Right now, for those of you who might be on your phone, write this down. bit.ly/rentstrike.ny. bit.ly/rentstrike, one word, NY. And I can assure you, there is someone who will ask you the right questions and will talk you through the process and will get you set up with legal services and will tell you what your rights are and how you can fight and join the fight, because it is bigger than you and I. It is the whole state of New York that is suffering. Your neighbor might be coming in with bags and you think, oh, they're okay. They can't pay their rent. I keep saying this to the people who keep being nasty to me on Twitter. Oh, you want fairness? You want to live in people's houses and don't pay? I keep saying this. Stop coming for me. I ain't going to pay what I can't pay. It's not that we don't want to pay. It's because majority of us cannot pay. Reach out to a local housing organizer if you need support. As I said before, You will be surprised to know that the building beside you, they have organized. But only by asking will you know. When your neighbor talking, when you're talking to your neighbors, keep track of who is paying rent and who isn't. We know we live in a dense community where New York is concerned. And because of the unaffordability of housing, there might be 5, 6, 7 family people living in a one-bedroom apartment. Some may be working, some may not. The lease might just be in one person's name, or maybe the person whose name is on the lease might not even be living in New York, but people need somewhere to live. Identify what your neighbor should demand, like repairs. You know that stove that was in the apartment from 1965? It should have been changed 10 times over, but the landlord doesn't want to change it. And you might be afraid to ask for a new stove. It's your right to ask for a new stove, for the refrigerator to be repaired, for the dripping faucet to be repaired, for the mold stepping off the ceiling to be scraped off, washed down, and your apartment is supposed to be painted. We are human beings and we should be living in good human condition. When is the last time the exterminator comes to your building or knock on your door? You are also entitled to have an exterminator come into your building and to do the necessary things that is to be done. So itemize the things that's happening in your apartment. You will be surprised to know you have 4 or 5 people on the floor that you live in who are going through the same thing. Unity is strength, people. We have to come together. Make a plan to escalate around your demands. What do I mean by that? You all come together, you choose whether it is a first Thursday or a second Saturday or a third Wednesday when you all will meet for an hour or an half an hour. Somebody can say, okay, I will host this month. Another person might host another month. Bring a little Kool-Aid, some cookies. Sit down, eat, make a list, itemize all things that is happening, and you will be surprised to know that some of the things that you say, oh, I'm not going to worry to say that. It is important. You're giving them your hard-earned cash, so you should be able to say, you know what? I need this to be done in my apartment, that to be done in my apartment, and it is expected to be done. What is eviction defense? It's when organized tenants come together. This is when our love juice flows with one another. You look out for me, I look out for you. You look out for my kids, I look out for your kids. And it doesn't matter your color, race, creed, religion, sexes. Put all that aside and make demands to prevent our neighbor from losing their homes. Remember, they keep saying it's their apartment building, but we turn the apartment building into homes. We put up the nice little curtains, we put the plants, we put the pictures on the wall. It's our home. It's our home, and we are supposed to be safe in our home, and it is supposed to be nice and airy and smelling good. And if they take our hard-earned money, some of us are paying 3/4 of what we earn for a month for the rent. It should be called your home. Remember, it's your home, and you are not supposed to be pushed out as if you're last week garbage. It look like a lot of things like tenants work. Sorry. Okay, so it can look like a lot of things, like tenants working with lawyers. These are some of the things that it looks like when you get organized and you come together. It might mean going down to the housing court with your neighbor. Remember, we're working with each other. So when your neighbor has a court date, you show up in solidarity, because when your court date come around, that neighbor, if they even can't make it, they might send another family member to stand with you as the fight goes on. It might mean blockades at the building level. What are blockades at the building level? You make sure that you are so in tune with each other that if the landlord is forcing his way into someone else's apartment, we can bodily block them from going into the apartment if they are not going in to do the right thing. You determine what your action looks like for you and your neighbor. It might mean calling the press. You have the right, tenants have a right to call attention, to have the press come and help you air what is happening in your building, air the neglect of the landlord. You have a right to do that. You have a right to put up notices in the building to let other tenants know that we're having a meeting. We would like to meet to talk about this thing or that thing. Do not let the landlord bully you and said, don't put up anything on my walls. There is a notice board. You put it on it. If you put it on your door, he has no right to take it off. You have a right to assemble. You have a right to put up your notification for other tenants to join in. What to do before you get an eviction notice? Talk to your neighbors. As I said before, get to know them. Talk about you can start off talking about the price of eggs, milk, cheese, and then you say, oh my God, the rent. I don't know what it's going to pay this month, or the gas, or whatever. But there has to be a dialogue with each other. Then start to form your tenant association in your building. Build trust with each other. We are all in this together. Search for help online, as I said before. And for those of you who might just join, bit.ly/rent-strike New York. Write that down. Put it on your refrigerator if you're a little forgetful. Oh, let me tell somebody about this. Let me call up. Let me go online. Let me see what I can do to get some more information. An informed tenant is a tenant that cannot be messed with. An informed tenant is a tenant who's going to stand up and be strong. As Sia said before, I was living in an apartment and I knew nothing about it. That wicked landlord had put me on preferential rent. I knew nothing about preferential rent. When the squeeze came on me and I got involved in NYCC, they sat us down on Saturday after Saturday. Pete and Sia drill it into us. What is preferential rent? What is NCI? What is good cause eviction? And all of that. Today, that's why I am here talking to you as if I'm some badass who know everything. It's because I keep going to the different meetings and we go into the over and over. I sacrificed a good part of my life because I was suffering with high rent to learn about preferential rent, to learn about MCI and all those the loopholes. There were 9 loopholes in New York City that was killing us. It put me in the hospitals for 2 weeks because my blood pressure was so high. But I am thanking God for the day when I find this group of people who have dedicated themselves to teach tenants and to let us know our rights. So identify what you and your neighbors need. Someone need timely repair. Cancel the rent. It is an anthem now that is ringing out on the lips of everyone. Tax the rich and cancel the rent. Keep a press conference, as I said. Identify legal services and bring a group action a court action case, not one person, 8, 9, 10 tenants come together, go speak with legal services and bring a class action against the landlord. Housing court, make a commitment to fight together, as I said before. Now, what to do when you get an eviction notice? Your landlord will have to notify you in writing. Don't push his head through the door and threaten you and tell you, if I don't get my rent by weekend, I'm going to throw you out. No. Don't even fall for that. Slam the door in his face when he does that. He has to notify you in writing of their intention to sue you in housing court. That is not an eviction notice. That's not the eviction notice. He's notifying you, I haven't gotten 2 months rent from you, just to let you know I will be going to the housing court. That's the notice. That is not the eviction notice. He's telling you, and by right, that's what he has to do in writing, not by word of mouth, in writing. I will be taking you to housing court. It's a part of the process. I repeat, it's a part of the process for him to put it in writing. Do not, I repeat, do not leave your home. Do not, when he knocks on your door, if you look through that little peephole and you see him and you don't want to talk to him, don't talk to him. You don't have, there's no law that says you have to talk to the landlord. If he's not coming to fix something, you have to talk to him. And do not leave your home. I wouldn't suggest you handcuff yourself inside the apartment, but hey, if push comes to shove, I am crazy enough to do that. I would handcuff myself in the apartment. I'm just joking. But do not leave your apartment because of what he's saying to intimidate you. Only a marshal can come and evict you when he gets the paper, the eviction notice from the court. Only a marshal can do that. After you go to court, a marshal can evict you when you get a 10-day notice or a court notice. So after the landlord goes to the court, the papers are in process. So what we're saying is that in 10 days, you will get that notice from the court. So you're going to prepare yourself now from the day you receive it or whatever date is on the notice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But so you have that period of time now to still organize strategy, have your strategy going. If you have, I would say, if you have small kids and you have other family members who are in a better position than you, and not to get your kids all messed up, and you can get your kids to a safer place, but don't leave your apartment. Stay in your apartment. Secure your family, but stay in your apartment. Get comfortable telling your story. There's no point for shame. There is no point for you to be ashamed. As I said before, Governor Cuomo locked down the state of New York. It was locked down tighter than a sardine can. Some of us has lost our jobs. Some of us jobs will never come back. We now have to rock our brain. We're going to start a business for us. We ain't got no money to start that business because they give us one funky little $1,200 and you pay that first month rent out of it. And some of you, your rent was 2 times the $1,200. So now he's opening the state in phases, but he's not doing it in a conscious and intelligent way because New Yorkers are suffering. So get comfortable to tell your story. This morning I heard a lady was saying she's getting SSI, but her rent is 2 times the SSI that she's getting, and her landlord is already banging on her door. Tell your story. Make it big. If you want to magnetize it, child, put your hand on your head, ball, make some noise. can go out on the street. I don't think anyone is gonna look on us tenants as less than if we make our voices be heard, because we are suffering. Okay, so and share your story with others, and you'll be surprised to know that you have other people going through the same thing. Decide what step you and your neighbors are going to be taking. And as I said before, always get in touch with an organizer or other people from other buildings and let them know what's going to do, and ask for help if you need it. Call your elected officials. I hope every tenant has the phone number of the council members, number, senators, member, the assembly members, number, Carl Hasty, number, Andrea Stewart Cousins, number, Hola Scomo's number. Call, and let them know what is happening, who is coming, what the landlords are doing, and trying to put you out. There is also a number that tenants can use. It is for housing court answers. So here we go again. Here is another number. Keep it handy. Have it in your phone. Have it on your refrigerator. Put it on your bedside lamp. 212-962-4795. Keep that number handy. You can put it in your phone. Speed dial if possible. 212-962-4795. And I just want to say to her that, you know what, keep the spirit, be in tune with what is happening. We watch the news all the time, and as I said before, what is going on is confusing. Como saying one thing, the judges are saying one thing, federal is saying one thing. But if we come together with the truth that we know, and what we know is that Como is in the pocket of real estate people, and he doesn't care about us, but we are going to be standing in his face and let him know that we care, and we are not giving up, and we are taking the fight to him. Before I get off, keep my mouth shut. I just hoping that come Friday morning, I see you all turn out to Madison Park in Manhattan. One person bring 2, the other 2 bring 3, the other 3 bring 4, and let's make a noise in Manhattan and let them know that we are the tenants. We are united. We are the same people they came to for our votes. They came to us for our votes, and now he's pretending as if we are not even alive. So let's make some noise at Como's office, all the different stops that we're going to be making on Friday, and let them know that we are alive, we are well, and we are fighting, and we're going down, kicking and screaming. Cancel the rent, tax the rich. Tax the rich, cancel the rent. Cancel the rent, tax the rich. Thank you very much. Keep fighting.
Thanks, Winsome.
Thank you, Winsome. All right, so let's talk about the roles that we each have to play when it comes to this eviction blockade. So for tenant leaders, when tenants are facing an eviction, we need to be prepared to make decisions about how to fight the case and to speak to our allies, our elected officials, etc. So the tenants, we have to be together and we have to decide collectively. Who are our allies? Well, allies should join actions called by directly impacted tenants. So even if you don't live in a building, if you want to support, please know that it should be from the tenants themselves and it should be directly by the tenants. So those might be pickets at housing court, press conferences, rallies at the building, or more. Allies should come prepared to follow the lead of renters on the ground. Elected officials, like Winsome was saying, please get their numbers and call them up, put pressure on them. We voted them in and they need to answer to us. So elected officials, they can be powerful allies in preventing evictions. Early on in your eviction defense, you may want to call a meeting with your local representatives and your tenant association. You can ask them to accompany you to court, share your story on their platforms to generate support, or to call the landlord and ask them to drop the case or more. So please use your elected officials and get to know who they are locally. As far as the press, telling your story or your building story in the press can help us build power for our demands. We need to get us out there. We need to get this information out there so that people can see it. So please contact the press and share your stories. However, we need to make sure that we have identified the right people to speak to the press. It is best to prioritize directly impacted people who can tell their story authentically. So if I have somebody in my building that's facing rent arrears right now, I know I have a tenant that's really behind her rent. She's the one that I want speaking to the press so she can share her personal story. Lawyers are an important part of an eviction defense, but not the only important part. We know that too often the laws protect landlords and not renters. Lawyers should support and enhance the work of tenants and tenant organizers. Next. So what are the best practices? Be clear about the goals of every action that you do, whether it's an eviction defense or not. Find out who is going to communicate with the police. What level of escalation do the leaders of the action want? Is that communicated to all the participants? Understand the risk of different types of actions and make sure that they are communicated to all participants. You also, for rapid response eviction defense networks, are local. So if you know somebody that's about to get evicted next week, it's good to have a local network. All right. It's good to have a local group of people who have capacity to show up when needed. So the building across the street, the building behind you, or the next block. If you are an experienced organizer, you can do outreach for a workshop or share your contact info as a hub. So you have to identify key apartment complexes with very high eviction rates to distribute invitation mailouts for workshops. In my case, my landlord, Steve Finkelstein, is one of the worst evictors in the Bronx, so I already know where his buildings are and where they're all located, and I'm already out there in their buildings as well. You need to conduct posturing throughout key high traffic areas of the community, right? So you need to go out to the places where there's a lot of buildings that are under stress and where you know tenants are facing a lot of issues with rent, and it's all around us. Use flyers to share contact information with each other. Downstairs in the lobby, you have information about the RGB vote, about the increases in rent. I have information about rent assistance. I have information about how to organize. So you can put that downstairs by the mailboxes, and so people can come in and see. You can also flyer other buildings in your neighborhood with your same landlord, like I said. Okay. Also, build a local press list. And let me share a quick website with everybody. If you want to know who owns what, go to whoownswhat.justfix.nyc/en/. Again, if you want to know how many buildings your landlord currently owns, you can go to whoownswhat.justfix.nyc/en/. So you also want to build a local press list. You got to look up contacts of press people on Twitter, Google for your local outlets and other outlets you and other people in your community read. Okay, find out about the local newspapers, the one that you see they give out for free in the red little bins. Pick them up, see if you can contact somebody on that newspaper and try to conduct an interview. All right. Also, very important, research your target. See what you can find about the landlord to potentially communicate to the media. Like I told you, I found out my landlord was one of the worst evictors. Bam, I shared that with the media. You also want to retain all communications in writing, especially document any maintenance issue. Record the date, time, and contact of all maintenance requests. Please, everybody, you need things to be in writing, not word of mouth. You need things to be in writing. The same way a landlord cannot evict you with word of mouth, you have to have it in writing. You need to have everything in writing too and keep track. All right. Last but not least, stay safe. Always wear your mask. Avoid in-person contact when you can, and communicate through phone, text, and wash your hands. The pandemic is not over. People, stay safe.
That's right.
Thank you. All right, Sia, go ahead.
Thanks, Juan. Thanks, Winsome. Thanks, everybody. I really want to emphasize that last point. It's really important to get organized and to learn how to get organized. And it's also really important to keep us safe because we know that we're the ones that keep us safe. So wear masks, social distance, wash your hands, communicate via phone and text when you can. We got to organize, we got to take action, and we got to keep ourselves safe, right? And our neighbors safe. So before we close out, I just want to ask again to ask you to sign up to take part in our mass eviction defense network to resist not only your eviction, but to help organize your neighbors against eviction. So you can visit this link again, bit.ly eviction defense. We'll support you with organizing, and this is how we're going to get in touch with you. So again, bit.ly/eviction defense. That's how we're going to get in touch, and that's how we're going to build the people power that we need to make sure that our state legislature, our federal government start prioritizing people over profit. And that's how we're going to get you the tools you need for that hyper-local tenant organizing eviction defense work. I also just want to shout out before we close out that you can call your state representatives and support Senator Myree's eviction moratorium bill. Senator Eleanor Myree has introduced a bill that would extend the eviction moratorium for 1 full year. So you can call your state representatives and ask them to support that. Senator Elizabeth Warren at the federal level has introduced that same bill. So you could call your federal representatives and your congresspeople and ask them to support that. But we know that extending and keeping housing courts closed isn't the only thing. We also need a permanent solution. So we need to cancel the rent. So you can call your state representatives and ask them to support Senator Julia Salazar's bill to cancel the rent in New York State. And then we've got that same bill at the federal level sponsored by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar that AOC spoke about at the beginning. So you could call your federal representatives, although AOC, she already supports, and ask them to support Ilhan Omar's cancel rent bill at the federal level. And again, I want to name that this supports rents and mortgages. So we're talking about homeowners and small landlords today too. Our goal is to target the corporate landlords who are pushing people out of their homes, not those community landlords and homeowners that are really part of our community. So the last thing that I want to say, and I want to thank everybody for getting on tonight and close out, and especially want to thank Jamaal Bowman, Winsome One, and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez for all of the amazing and inspiring work, is that if you are at immediate risk of eviction, you should call Housing Court Answers and get legal advice. And they can connect you to both a neighborhood organizing group, but also tell you what to do if you need to go to housing court. And their number is 212-962-4795. So I'm going to say that number again. If you're at immediate risk of eviction, you need to call Housing Court Answers at 212-962-4795. And that's how you can get some urgent advice about what to do if you're getting an eviction notice right now. So again, I want to thank Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. I want to thank and congratulate Jamaal Bowman. And I want to thank Winsome and Juan for their leadership at pulling all of us into being better tenant organizers, and all the folks who worked on pulling this workshop together and all the folks who came to it. And I will let everyone get on with their Wednesday night. Thank you so much. Let's cancel the rent.